So this radio is my Sangean PRD4, which I bought because I wanted a better digital portable medium wave radio. And last night I decided I wanted to compare this with a radio that I hadn't really tried in detail but had a lot of hopes for, which is this old Panasonic RF596. A pretty big radio, missing the handle unfortunately, but otherwise works really well. What I did is I did a full band scan of the medium wave band here in Toronto. Obviously I'm in an urban area, there's lots of noise, and I didn't shut off all the electronics in my house, of course, but it was a pretty good night. And let me explain what I got. And this, I think, really came through very nicely. I should say one of the things I like about this radio is it doesn't have a dial cord to connect the tuning to the dial. It's one of those worm gear kind of deals with grease, which is still good after, this is, I don't know, early 80s probably? Late 70s, early 80s, I think. And this is really very nice tuning radio. So it's quite pleasant in that regard. But I had some hopes for this, and I'll show you. It came through pretty well. So let's start by talking about the Sangean, the PRD4 here. So covering the whole medium wave band, and keeping in mind this goes all the way up to the top of the current band, the Panasonic. It won't, of course. This received 61 stations. This is, about 11 o'clock at night, 11:30, somewhere in there. Quite well there. This is, I've talked about this radio before, and I will. It's got some oddities. It tends to sort of lock in on signals because it does a sensitivity adjustment and some sort of fine-tuning thing that I don't entirely understand. Anyway, so there are some situations where it can behave a little oddly when you have strong signals, but that wasn't the case last night. For the first, I don't know, third of it, I'd forgot and had left the bandwidth here on 6 kilohertz before I took it down to 3 or 2.5, somewhere in there, which is where I tend to like it for distant stuff. So there, maybe there were a few things that I could have gotten in earlier on. If I don't think so, that wasn't in the, well, I mean, that is a pretty busy part of the dial, but I didn't have too much trouble with it. So it was doing well, sounds good. I mean, it's a good radio. The Panasonic RF596 here got 49, so that's, a 12 station difference, so 61 to 49. But in many situations, this behaved almost as good. It was almost as good as the Sangean. It's very sensitive. This is a really nice sensitive radio. I've been inside this to do a minor repair on it. There's a video up, I think, on that. It's got a nice long ferrite antenna. This is a very sensitive radio. It works really well. But where you have a strong signal close to a weak signal, it simply gets a bit overpowered and can't compete with a well-designed digital radio there. So I thought that was very interesting. I'm really fairly impressed with the Panasonic. I think we might need to compare it. I have a Sony that has been the reigning analog champion. I bought the Sangean because I wanted something that would kind of set the standard for medium wave performance. I needed a standard. I didn't have a well-acknowledged, strong medium wave receiver to compare, and I far prefer using a digital radio for band scanning. For listening, for playing around with things that are probably there, then analog is great. But the ability to, excuse me, read your frequency off a dial accurately is just, I don't know, for me it's just is fairly important. You spend much less time waiting for a station ID. I will say I have one more thing that's come in. I'll just reach over here and see if it fits on here, which is, oh, not quite. This is a Sangean, oh, other side. Where is it? Oh, sorry, Sangean Texan AN200. They make the AN200 and the 100. They are the same, I think, except for modern parts of design. I bought this to play with other radios that don't have very good medium wave antennas in them, although, for example, something like the Sangean 909X2. So I'm really interested in playing with this, and I have, and I will put a video together fairly soon talking about its use with this, and also the Texan PR330, which has an undocumented AM antenna in mode, and I've played around with that, and I think that the 330 and this antenna is a pretty promising combination. So, to finish up, I think the old Panasonic acquitted itself very well. Very pleasant radio to use, and in terms of finding stations, okay, it gets beaten out by newer stuff, but in terms of which one you'd actually end up listening to most of the time, assuming you could get it in, it's probably the Panasonic, even though the Sangean's a nice sounding radio. All right, thanks for watching.